Hey, everyone in Dimensional Talent Streams Nation, Valerie Williams coming back to you again with another special guest, Lina Jones, who is from the Virginia area. She has her business that is media slash podcast and so much more. I am excited, as always, to introduce her to the Dimensional Talent Stream Nation, to you guys. I want you to give it up for Lina Jones. Miss Lena in the house. How are you?
Hi. Hey, what's up, diamonds? That's how I usually start my intro. How you doing? I'm here. This is my second interview this year.
Awesome. Well, tell us, Miss Lena Jones, the official. I heard you mention diamonds, and I wanted to kind of give you some room to put your, tell us the business that you're in, what you do, how you got into it. Let our audience know who Lena Jones is and what she has that she assists business owners and anybody who is in the particular space that you are providing services for.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Lina Jones, and I am the owner CEO of the LJD Network. The LJD Network is an umbrella company, um, and under it, it holds several legal DBAs. Um, the LJD in radio, LJD in podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both under the umbrella of LJD and Network. And
Mm-hmm.
that's who I am.
So,
Okay.
how did you get started in the radio podcast arena?
Well, um, someone had asked me about um, I I always I've done videos for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Video by Lena was my original company before I got my LLC, and I did videos and websites. And
Okay.
um, I did that when I left corporate America. When I worked in corporate America, I worked in the NOC, Network Operations Center. I was a technical analyst. I was kind of like a
Mm.
techie.
Yes.
And I've been, when I decided to go into web designs when I first saw the internet back in the 90s or the 80s when I first saw it. I was fascinated with it because I've always liked color and graphics and stuff like that. And so I wanted to go into it. And that's how the whole thing started. And I started um, um, self teaching and educating myself on how to do web designs. And at that time,
Nice.
there wasn't all these templates. You had to do it by HTML coding,
Mm-hmm.
CSS, Java, and stuff like that
Yes.
to make it. And so that's what I started learning. I learned how to do that, and I did websites, and I found out more about, looked more into the internet and what you can do with it, and I was just fascinated by the whole thing. So eventually, so I started doing websites long time ago, and that's what I did. And I had a small. I still worked in corporate America, but it was my side hustle. you
Gotcha.
know, I had a hosting site where I hosted web designs that I did, and on top of that, I did graphics, I did the business cards, I did everything. And then when social media became popular, I started in social media. And my start in social media was pretty rough because Facebook had been around, but I just wasn't interested in it. I wasn't interested in none of it. And then when I started doing more research and finding out it was a good way to advertise my business without paying a lot of money. And like most entrepreneurs or people just starting out, you don't have a lot of money unless
Mm-hmm.
someone gives it to you. No one's giving me anything.
Right.
so so that's what I did. I just researched, found out more about the social media, and then I started opening up social media accounts and reading up and going back to school to take up social media marketing. I had already completed a bachelor's in computer science with
Okay.
technical management as my
Mm-hmm.
emphasis. So I went back to get my um, what's a master's certificate in social media marketing. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I did. And then I just kind of grew from there, even though what they taught you didn't really apply to what was really going on social media.
Yes.
But I had to find a niche. The thing was finding a niche, and I just my niches just came to me just like an epiphany. Like one day I just did it on a regular basis, even though I would follow people. I would follow like, you know, 10 people, and maybe uh, zero will follow back, and the two or three that follow back ended up unfollowing me. So it's just
Ah,
like, how do you conquer this beast?
right.
But anyway, I found a niche, which it started out with song verses, and it went from song verses to diamonds. I needed something more, but I wanted something that I knew that would attract attention to people, and something that everyone loved, and something that kind of represented me. And I came up with diamond, and I said, okay, diamond gets the attention of people. And,
Okay.
um, and it's beautiful. It's something that's pretty to look at. And when I, looked up how diamonds were made, because I didn't know how diamonds were made, and
Mhm.
found out they were made under a lot of pressure.
Yes, ma'am.
They're dirty.
Yes,
They got to
ma'am.
go through a lot before they
Absolutely.
shine. And that was me. That was it. That
Mm,
was it. And it didn't just represent me, it represented any anyone who tried to go into entrepreneurship or make it on their own.
yes, yes. I love that. And this is again why I love to have guests on the show to hear their journey, their story. We all have a story. And the word of the Lord talks about know those who you labor with, and it is a way of collaborating, getting to know those in the industry who you actually labor with. And unless you can kind of share stories, you can't really learn the story unless you share the story. You can't really hear the testimony unless you hear the person's test that they came through. And so this is another reason why I just love using the platform that I've been blessed with to, have guests come on and give them a platform, even though they may have their own platform. But again, it's a way of collaborating, getting to learn, getting the word out, and sharing my own personal platform. So I love the stories behind how we've got into our various businesses and entrepreneurship and just things that we've conquered, successes, and so forth. You get those what we call value bombs through hearing these stories. So you mentioned about diamonds, and as you were talking about diamonds, I just instantly, like, I've got pearls on today. I'm all pearled out, and I just think about how pearls are made. They go through a very extensive process, just like the diamond. So hearing you say that just brought that back to mind. So with all that you have learned through your schooling, your education with web design, from the technical piece with HTML and all of that, tell us what you loved along that journey to get you to where you are now. I know you gave us that whole analogy of a diamond, and it just kind of snowballed into one thing, and so here we are today. But what are some lessons that you can share with us that relate to entrepreneurs, business owners, from the journeys that you had just to get where you are?
Well, my number one thing, don't start it if you don't have any money.
Mm. Say that again.
Don't start it if you have no money.
Hmm.
You can't get a loan, or a relative, or a boyfriend, a husband, a girlfriend,
Hmm.
to back you up with something. Do not start it empty handed, because you'll always be struggling trying to get ahead, unless
Mm.
you have what I what I call it the it factor.
Hmm.
The it factor is someone who can instantly go on YouTube, social media, and automatically people start following them.
Yeah.
Everybody don't have the it factor, and that's what a lot of us need to understand. I went into it knowing that I did not have an it factor. I had to
Hmm.
create my own it factor, and it just
Right.
the biggest advice is to go and to have some type of money. Don't just have what you have in your checking and what you're making, and just because you got some extra money left over, think you can dig into it, unless you don't want to do it seriously. You just want to
Mhm.
try it or something. But that's
Sure.
the biggest advice that I give to people. I just told about the beginning to let people know how it started.
Oh, absolutely.
From there, it just grew. From there, I went into radio. From once I started with my niche on Twitter, I started out on Twitter, and it just grew. I noticed that they were liking it, they were following, they were retweeting, they were doing things like that. So I just continued from there, and grew that from there. And from there, I mean, Twitter, I think I got about, on that original Twitter account, I got about 9,000 followers.
Excellent.
But,
Excellent.
so from there, some people had said to me, and I met some really nice, I call them social buds, some
Yeah.
social buddies, and a couple of people had mentioned to me about radio, and I said, okay, I'll think about it. And one day I happened to really think about it and came across this site called Blog Talk Radio, BTR,
Okay.
where I started. And so I started a show on BTR, a 2-hour show, because I was paying for 2 hours. And I said, I'm going to use all those 2 hours.
Right.
But the 2-hour show, that is trying. Don't try that unless you have a
Mhm.
group of people that's working with you. Don't try that. Yeah.
Right.
So I went to BTR, and before I did BTR, I did my research. I try to do my research on things before I jump into
Yeah.
them. It may not work all the time, because they could still not turn out to be, but um, so I did my research on that and went and said, okay, I'm gonna try this. And they were telling you how to be prepared in case no one listens to your show, because a lot of people tend to think that just because they got a show, everybody's gonna listen.
Right.
You got to go into as nobody knows me. So if you go into it with that mentality, you won't get disappointed. So
Right.
that's
Right.
what
Right.
I did, and I did research on how to do it and to get people, and I did put it out on my social media network,
Mhm.
and did my first show, and it was nervous, and then I didn't want to didn't want to go back. Didn't want to go back. Like, my God. And when I did go and look at it, a guy named Guy White, he convinced me to do it. He is my Twitter follower now. Um, and I did go back and look, and I had 179 people that actually listened to me,
Mm. Mm.
where I was expecting to see one, maybe two. It was 179 people. So I said, okay. And so I started doing it, and it was pretty successful. It was pretty successful. I did it for about 3 or 4 years, and I interviewed a lot of. My focus was on independent artists,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, people who owned their own business, and pretty much the same thing. And when I left BTR, I had about 12,000 downloads.
Wow, that's excellent. Excellent. So when you say BTR, just for our, listening audience, what does BTR stand for?
Block Talk Radio.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So I heard a lot in that because you talked about, your niche, finding your niche and building your audience. So I guess I kind of really want to pick that apart a little bit more and dive back in there and pick your brain a little bit more, Lena, into how you got your niche. What were the steps? I know you said you did a lot of studying and research and so forth, but through the research that you did and were able to put into practice and follow through on it, what were some of those things that you had to put in place to discover what your niche is?
Um, know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because if you know yourself, you know what represents you. You wouldn't say, okay, I need a niche, but I like garbage and running around nude. And if,
Yeah.
and if you do, to each his own. I'm a to each his own type person. then you find something that fits that. And whatever you find that fits it, there's a category of people out there that will listen to
Mhm.
it.
Right, right,
They may not let nobody know they listen to it, but you go to that little dirty website and you'll see a whole bunch of listeners that like to listen to it. But
right,
you
right,
just have to
right.
know you just have to know who you are, what it is that you wanted, what it is that represented you. With me, I was looking for something that one attract what attracts attention, you know, because
Mhm.
you can't look at it the way you can't look at it through your eyes. You have to look at it through the other person's eyes.
Right, right, right.
You know, you know, I like butterflies, but there may be people out there that don't like butterflies.
Mhm,
So I have to
mhm.
consider put myself to the back and put the needs or the wants of the people in entertainment to the front.
Right,
That
right.
has to be on the front line. And it's
Yeah,
constantly now it trends so much that you just don't even know. It's one thing one week and then the next week it's not. It's
very
like
true.
getting hits on TikTok and YouTube. You get that. You do something and next thing you know you have gotten all these likes and then you have to keep up with that.
Mhm, mhm.
Because and so you're constantly looking and constantly looking. You have to make sure that this is something that you want to do.
Right.
When I went into entertainment, it was something that I wanted to do. It was something that I wanted to do. And then video. I love video, and
Mhm.
it wasn't so much being in front of a video because I'm not an in front of the camera type person. I do it because I have to, and I do it because I should, and I do it to put a name with the face.
Right, exactly.
And out of all these years I've been doing this is my first year in 2021. I started in 2020, slowly but surely putting myself out there more because I am a truly behind the scenes person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting how the behind the scenes people or the ones that were not looking to be up front are the ones that get pulled to the front. You hear of the first being last and the last shall be first. So it is
Good
always
scenario. I never
interesting.
looked at it that way. But yeah, I love taking the video, editing the video, doing special
Mm,
effects and love that, putting it all together, the colors. I was been fascinated with that type of creativity. And for me, it
interesting.
comes natural. It does.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It's something that, sometimes I create something and look at it and I just have to thank God because if it wasn't for him giving me this talent, someone can tell me something and I could picture it in my head just like that. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of and just again, I just am amazed, and this is why I love collaborations and having folks on because it really, it makes you hear the other person's journey and you are able to learn from them and kind of there's this cross-pollination going back and forth, but you're always brought back to you look back at yourself and your journey and some of the things that you never thought you would do and here you are doing it. Those God winks, I call them, like those little God winks where he has his plan for us and we don't even think about it. Next thing you know, we're walking in it. So I just always am amazed with that. So now talk to us. You mentioned about Instagram and some of the followings that you have, your successes in some of social media and how many followers that you have. And I remember working with another young lady, a prospect who had social media and is doing very well on Instagram. And she's like, she doesn't like to kind of have the camera on her. She's behind the scenes, but she's behind the scenes and has major following, major influencer. Um, Tell us how you were able to build your following on Instagram, for example. What were some of the things I know you mentioned about, you got to be true to yourself. You got to look at those things that interest you, but also from a perspective of entertainment, because you want to be able to entertain and keep your followers, viewers engaged. But for you, everybody's different. How were you able to get your following? What was your success in getting your following on Instagram?
Well, on Instagram, I do okay. I'm not
Mhm.
an Instagram influencer, I say within my whole network of Instagram followers, I may be at 4,000, or something like that. So I'm not. With me, it's all about content, keeping your content fresh, uh,
Mhm.
making sure that people see it, and not being anxious.
Yeah.
Not being anxious for those followers. A lot of people mess up because then they go and they buy followers and they buy likes and they do.
Ooh.
One thing that I am proud to say is that my followers are genuine. In all
Mhm.
these years, these people have chosen to follow
Yeah.
on the different, like I have several Twitters, several Instagrams, several Facebooks. So I have more than one
Hmm.
account in these, and all of them have come with their own followers of different people. So so that's what I would say. The best thing is your content is very important.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Making an investment in yourself is very important. And that's the thing I had to do. Although no one handed me anything, I had to take what I earned and invest in myself. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake either. I mean, too, being in entertainment is not cheap.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
And if you want to build yourself or build your brand in entertainment, you have to make that investment. So if you know you're lousy at video, hire someone else to do it.
Absolutely. That's like one of the golden rules is that, if you know you
No,
if you know you have your business and we all have our weaknesses just as much as our strengths.
yeah.
But you have your strength, your weakness, and that's something that you just can't get around. It's an integral part of what you do. Source that out. Get outsource that. Get your virtual assistant, or like you said, hire somebody. So that is definitely has to be done. Has to be done.
And a lot of people don't realize that they need to make an investment. Like when I do videos, I talk to a person um, who's doing their different things. They may be doing video or YouTube, just a small presentation or for whatever. And when I talk to them and they talk about what they're doing, and they're very excited about themselves, and what they're building in the entertainment area and stuff like that. And then, but they want something from me, which is usually has to do with video. And I'll ask them, how much do you want to invest in yourself? If you want to be here, you're at 3, and you want to get to 10. Let's just say 10.
Mhm.
It's not even a ridiculous number.
Right.
But and you want to get there, what are you willing, how much do you have to invest in yourself? Every
Mhm.
month, everything I do is an investment. I have to reinvest into it, and it takes money. It takes
Right.
money. I can't go to them and say, well, I don't want to spend that much, but if that's what I want to do, that's what I have to invest at. And people have to understand that. And to me, it happens more so in the African American community.
Mhm.
People, we don't want to invest in ourselves. We expect someone to do it for nothing or little of nothing, but you want champagne taste and you have beer money. And
Right.
you have beer money. You just don't want to spend but beer money. That's
Mhm.
not going to get you where you need to be.
Mhm.
Just like you get paid for doing your job, a person that does your video, your business cards, your graphics, they want to be compensated for doing that because that is how they earn their money.
Oh, absolutely. I I
Don't
I I was just sharing with a guest recently. It's interesting how we're touching on some of the same things that I had one of my guests on, just a matter of fact, this week. And I said to them, yeah, it was kind of along the same lines of what you just mentioned. And I said, that brings me back to, I did a quick little video on business ethics, and I'm going to probably expound on it and make it like a full blown hour long video, and it's business ethics, but it's really the fruits of the spirit of business. Really the fruits of the spirit, that whole treatment of, you want to be treated in a particular certain way, you need to also extend that even in business. We sometimes we come with that entitlement, but that entitlement, the expectation of that entitlement is not reasonable. And so just, with integrity, if you say you're going to do something, follow through on it. If you can't do it, then, communication, the fostering relationship, just the fruits of the spirit of business, which you call business ethics, and vice versa. So interesting that we're touching on this again. So my revelation is flowing in this conversation, because now it's like, okay, I need to go back and really extend that video, because it's come up about a couple of times with some other guests that I have had on the station. So, but again, Miss Lena, you talked to us about, if you do not have funding and you are, getting into entrepreneurship, or no matter what phase you are in your business entrepreneurship, not to pursue it. Expound on that a little bit more about, funding and business, and that whole, give us your perspective on that.
Um, I jumped into it with very little money, because I didn't think I needed it. And I was wrong, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I probably could be a lot further than where I am today had I, did it a little bit smarter. I'm not saying you need a whole lot of money or you need to go out and get a
Sure,
business.
sure.
I'm saying you need to have something. So, if you got, or should I say if you have, okay, if you have at least 5,000 in your savings, and this is something that you wanted to make an investment in, and if you're making an investment in something, it should only bring you money back. So even if you use 3 grand of that, what you're using it for should put you in a position to make it back, to put it back. But if you using your whole 3 grand, and by the time you finish doing what you want to do, it then came up to 2,500, and you can't see, you're not seeing, you're not this, you didn't make the money as fast or as quick as you thought you could, you end up in a bad position.
Right,
If you
right.
don't have the money, and make sure you're not a sole provider. If you're a sole provider, if you have children or something, you're a single person, of course you can't spend money like that. But you need to have some type of backup system. You need to have your family. You can go to your family and say, hey, look, this is what I plan to do. Unless you're one of them dreamers that every 6 months coming in there with a new plan.
Right, yeah.
And your family's like, I don't know. But I mean, if it's something that you don't do on a regular basis, and they know that you've approached them, that you must be serious because you don't do this out of the norm. See if you can have someone to at least back you up with at least 3 to 5 grand. Three, 3 to 5 grand to get you started,
Right, right, right.
and
Absolutely.
smart with it. And because if you're not smart with it, it's going to go fast.
Yeah.
But don't take what little you have and then use your pay to pay check. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Very,
Why
very.
you do it, it's not going to work, because I thank God for myself. What saved me from myself is that half the things that I needed to do to get there, I already knew how to do it. I knew graphics, I knew video, I knew web design, I knew all of that stuff already. I was blessed to know the things that I do may look, like they cost about 5 grand or something, but I do them myself. But if I
Yeah.
was to pay someone to do the things that I do, I would need a lot of money a month.
Right, right. Absolutely.
I
I
don't.
mean, there's so much in that, and I just think about, how I started, and, not to say that I have arrived, because we are always learning. And that's just the nature of, if you're in business, an entrepreneur, online marketer, you really have to be one of those that is always a student. You cannot always be the Indian chief. You always have to be in that place of, I'm always a student, I'm always learning, and like learning. And I just think about my own journey and how, when I got started in entrepreneurship, yeah, I failed, many a times, but I was able to take those failures and learn from them and say, okay, that what I learned out of my failures the most, Lena, was what business model worked for me versus what business model didn't. I learned that very, very fast.
Yeah.
And I learned the industry, the jargon, when they talk about landing pages, when they talk about CRM, and when they're talking about affiliate marketing and that whole, just the jargon that you have in the various industries. I learned that very fast. I learned about how I needed mentors. I needed to have somebody who has been where I'm trying to go and can tell me all of the nitty gritty, all of the behind the scenes, just as much as, okay, here is the end result, but this is the process to get to where you're going. So I can't say enough about having mentors, finding mentors. You, for yourself, you educated yourself. You liked getting the education, you researched. For me, it was the mentorship, and I was blessed to have just people come into my life, and I was able to know, by the time these individuals presented themselves and how they came to me, I knew this was that, because there were some things I did prior. So when the opportunity came, I knew that, okay, not only is this an opportunity, but I knew the timing was right. And timing is very key in business and entrepreneurship as well, because just because, an opportunity is presented, that may not be the exact time that you get involved in it. Maybe it's just for exactly what you said, for you to get educated, for you to learn, for you to understand the investment piece of it. So that is a big, huge, I mean, I can't say enough about that area alone. I mean, it almost is like you need a school, a school for that piece alone, so much in that. So Lena, give us some other value bombs. Give us some other, other words of wisdom, for fairly new entrepreneurs, business owners, that you would want to stress and kind of share with us today.
Well, those are, I gave you the main ones. I gave you the money ones.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
gave you the money ones. It's
yeah,
just trying, trying to be true to yourself and being honest. Being honest, paying people for their self-worth.
yes,
Um, not belittling no one, because we're all trying to make it in this entertainment industry.
mhm,
Entertainment is a whole new, is a not new, but it's a separate industry. You have your corporate and you have your entertainment. And
interesting.
you are in the entertainment business, that is what you do, and that's what you need to be true to.
Mhm,
Entertainment. That's how you make your money. How do you make your money? I entertain. I'm an actress. I'm in a band. This is how I make my living. This is how I make my money.
mhm,
You
mhm.
just have to be true to who you are and know your self-worth, and stick with that. Stick with that. No one says we have to just have one skill. I was
Right.
in corporate America for a long time,
Mhm.
and I did, at one point, before I even got into creative thing, I was all administrative, like executive, secretary, because I knew it all. I knew all the Microsoft and everything, and I worked for a temporary agency. Because one thing about it, when you're an entrepreneur and you have a free spirit, it's never going to leave. A true free spirit is always going to be there, and it's never going to leave until you satisfy it. If you satisfy it and you fall down on your face, you go, okay, that's enough. I wanted to try it. I did it. Then okay. But if you are a true free spirit, like myself, then you're not going to want to work for anyone. You
Mm,
don't want to work for anyone. It
mm,
bothers you to work for people. So I stuck with temp agencies. I would stick with temp agencies, and I was good at what I did. So they kept me going. I had a lot of offers to stay with some nice companies
mhm.
um, because of my skill set, but that's not what I wanted. I had to be free. You know, fortunately for me, I married, and my husband eventually got used to my my flightiness, free spirit. I guess whatever
Oh,
you may call it flightiness, but I call it free spirit. But
oh.
I thank God for him because he's able to, you know, he kept the food. I mean, the food in my mouth, the roof over my head, while I
Mhm.
pursued this thing. I mean, he was in the entertainment business too, a while ago. Girl, we he used to do black. He was the first club in Irvine, California, to do black comedy, and we had
Interesting.
DL Hugley was our host.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's like the area where I live. I'm in North Carolina. It's called Moravian Falls, Wilkesboro area, which is a small country town about an hour and a half outside of Charlotte. And I was in the healthcare industry for a number of years, still am. Um, so that kind of my foundation is the healthcare industry, but I had a former coworker when I used to be in behavioral health. And she had her own radio station, but I had been living here for like 7 years before I even knew. And it was like the only and first Black owned radio station in this country town. I mean, my jaw dropped. I'm like, and I'm like, I've lived here all these years. And you exist in it, and it was just, but that's another story in itself. So when you talked about that, it brought back those fond memories of this young lady and her husband here, and my small town of Wilkesboro, Moravian Falls, with their radio station. So
Yeah,
yeah, we share some similar experiences.
I was out in Irvine, California. I lived out in California for about 16 years. But
Hmm.
I can't say that DL Hughley will remember me. He did pick on me one night
Sure.
about my but my husband and his partners hosted the club, so they were more, speaking to him than I was. But I remember he used to always say that he was short, and when he would get up on stage, he would always say, "I may be short, but when I stand on my wallet, I'm tall."
Nice.
But he grew to be this mega superstar. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So he would so that was a pretty inspiring, at least that quote that he used to say in the club. So I've been in the entertainment industry for a long time.
Mm,
Me just venturing out and doing my own thing. My husband, he doesn't do this anymore. He's a since he retired from the Marine Corps.
okay.
But he doesn't do that anymore. But I'm doing this that just kind of came out the blue, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind of came out the blue. But I like it. I like it. You just have to be true. Make sure you have someone to back you up, and just be true to yourself and what you do, and know your self worth.
Yes, yes. Excellent, excellent. Well, Lena, I want to thank you for sharing that, just that wisdom. And thank you for sharing your journey. So honored to have you here and being a part of my podcast here, Dimensional Talent Streams, that can be seen every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on tw3radio.com, and where we can also be found anywhere on social media, YouTube, like, subscribe, follow. So thank you for being such a gracious guest, and just sharing your wisdom and your journey with, entertainment and within business. Plethora of wisdom that we have received today. I am, Lena, you stay on with me just for a few seconds. That's going to do it for us here today, Dimensional Talent Stream Nation. Join me again next week for another session, and see you next week. Bye-bye.